Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the latest Doha debate, coming to you from the Gulf state of Qatar and sponsored by the Qatar Foundation. For years now, life has been getting harder and more violent for religious minorities in the Arab world. From Iraq to Egypt to Sudan, non-Muslims have been targeted and their places of worship destroyed. In March, the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia piled on the pressure, calling for all churches in the Gulf to be destroyed, a demand that provoked outrage and dismay in many parts of the world. Our motion tonight seeks to chart a way forward. This House believes Arab governments should take urgent measures to protect religious minorities. And as usual, our panellists disagree fundamentally. Speaking for the motion, Dr. George Carey, now Lord Carey and a former Archbishop of Canterbury, who was leader of the world's third largest Christian community. He's now president of the London School of Theology. And with him, Ahmed Saad, former Imam at the North London Central Mosque. He led his first prayer at the age of 13 and is now founder and chairman of the Ihsan Institute for Arabic and Islamic Studies based in the UK. Against the motion, Fadi Daou. He works with a variety of groups to promote relations between different faiths. He's also a professor at Holy Spirit University in Lebanon, a priest in the Maronite Church, and head of its Interreligious Relations Office. Also against the motion, Roger Bismuth. He became a senator in Tunisia in 2005, one of very few Jews ever elected to parliament in the Arab world. He's also a member of the International Council of Jewish Parliamentarians. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our panel. So could I first please ask Dr. Carey, Lord Carey, to speak for the motion?
Well, by minorities, we don't just mean Christian, but there are obviously other Muslim, Druze, Baha'is, and others. What is the scale of the problem? Well, there are many governments, of course, that take a responsible attitude to this. Here we are in Qatar, which is a very positive policy. We can also think of Jordan. We can think of Tunisia. But there are other governments which and the attitudes range from gloomy to downright awful. And the worst, I want to suggest, is Saudi Arabia, where non-Muslims cannot act worshipfully in that country. I, as a Christian, can't take a cross in, can't take a Bible, not allowed to worship. And there's a sense in which that is profoundly unjust. And we look for that government to change eventually. We think of Egypt, where in recent years there's been colossal attacks on property. Coptic Church, which was there for 2,000 years, and now depleting 10% of the population, and in the last year has lost 100,000 of its members. We think of the vast exodus from Iraq, which has gone from 1.5 million to 500,000 now. We think of the Jews, which had a very strong community now, and we can count their numbers in single figures. We think of Christians in Hezbollah-held territory in Lebanon, where in some places the population has moved from 75% to 30%. We think of the consequences for Palestinian Christians in Israel, Bethlehem. There are now more Palestinian Christians in Sydney, Australia, than there are in Jerusalem.
If you could come so you can see the
scale of the problem, and I must finish, therefore. So the importance of this, for us all, ladies and gentlemen, is to see minorities not as aliens, but as worthwhile communities in our countries who have a contribution to make.
Lord Carey, thank you very much indeed. It's useless to call on Arab governments to protect religious minorities, isn't it, when they don't protect majorities in their country either?
That's also true.
So realistically, how useful is your call to Arab governments?
It is very important because where the weight falls is on the minority. The majority, of course, the majority of the population can stand firmly because they are one. When you have small minorities, they have no protection. They need the protection of the law.
They have protection when they're involved in the life of the community and the life of the majority. That's their protection, isn't it?
I'm saying they should have that protection, but you will hear their voice. I think, for example, the Coptic voice in Egypt, and they say, no, they don't. They're not often allowed the right to speak up Sheikh Ahmed might be able to say more about that as someone who knows Cairo and Egypt better than I do.
But you have had cases where Muslims have marched in sympathy with Copts in Egypt, where the Muslim Brotherhood has actually said they will protect churches.
Absolutely.
So that they can't be damaged.
Yes.
And that is a sign of the community coming together. If you ask a government that is not assuring anybody's rights to assure minorities' rights, it puts them in the wrong position,
Yes, but
doesn't it?
you heard what I said at the beginning, that the minorities are not only Christian from my perspective. We have to uphold the rights of all minorities, and minorities do stand